If you'd like to be a guest on the show, the application form is in the show notes. We can discuss emotional abuse, toxic or narcissistic relationships of any kind, parenting after trauma, ADHD, autism, or parenting ADHD or autism. I would love to hear from you. As ever, take care. Bye. The cost of self-protection is often revealing uncomfortable truth, painful truth. Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Liberation Effect. Today I'm joined by Sarah, who wrote in, having been featured on my old podcast Insight as a letter writer. In that podcast episode, I mentioned that her mother may be displaying behaviour that we might associate with covert narcissism, and that led to a sort of exploration and is here today, well, to maybe explore a bit further and see what's been going on. And I'm actually just going to hand it to you, Sarah, and ask you, what is it you're looking for from our time together today?
Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for having me. I think
Such a pleasure.
it's really difficult to know where to start because I don't actually know what it is I want to get from today. I just feel completely overwhelmed with kind of all that's happened since that letter, really. And I'm now estranged from my mum, but that's kind of initially initiated by me, and then that kind of has changed over time, and I feel a bit discarded by her now. And I guess one of the questions really is whether estrangement is the right path for me. I guess that's what I want to be exploring more today.
Okay, so when you first got in touch with that letter, can you just give us a little bit of a summary of what was going on, what made you get in touch, and then what's brought you to get in touch this time?
So it was about 2.5 years ago, my dad had not long since passed away, and at that point I was aware that he was a narcissist, and my sister is also very much got narcissistic traits. So I was getting in touch because things had really changed within the family dynamic after losing my dad, and also the kind of the difficult time that we had because he was ill for quite some time. And then it was just all the kind of chaos after that, and the family dynamics really changed. And so I was getting in touch because I was seeing a different side to my mum that I hadn't seen, because she wasn't able to hide behind my controlling dad, and that was quite confusing. So my letter was kind of asking a bit of support around my enabling mum. At least that's how I saw her at the time. It was you that opened my eyes that maybe there was kind of covert narcissism going on. And actually, Helen, initially I was really cross with you. I was like, why are you saying that?
Yeah, totally get it. Yeah.
I was like, but why are you saying that? You know, that wasn't the point of my letter. Like I was really frustrated. But actually over time I started to see what you were saying, and actually I look back at that letter now and it screams it, but I just didn't.
Oh, bless you.
It's just so funny how once you've seen things you can't unsee them, and I think that was the starting point, and you kind of set that ball in motion. But I also think, how am I unlucky enough to have a mum, a dad and a sister who all show really strong narcissistic traits? But yeah, over the last couple of years, it's been really tricky to kind of work through my relationship with my mum. And what's made that kind of more intense is that she's chosen to move up to the same city as me. And we've never lived less than kind of 4 hours away from each other since I left home. So it's a really massive change.
That's big.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of made things much more difficult.
But yeah, I think I do remember your letter, and obviously I've looked at it since, and the intrusion of just moving into that city to be that close is huge without kind of discussion. And I remember actually, I think at the time being quite torn with, everyone's got the right to live wherever they want, right? But there is something that just says maybe it would be more harmonious to just say, hey, I'm thinking about moving up to the city that's right next to you or that you live in. And what do you feel or think about that? And give you a little bit of autonomy to say, actually, I would rather you didn't. And, you know, as long as that was going to then get heard, because of course, maybe it wasn't going to be heard, and maybe that's why. So you said, though, that you've gone no contact initially and initiated by you. And where do things stand now?
So that's still there's still no contact, but so I initiated that at the beginning of the year after she moved to the city about a year ago. And then within about a month of that, I realised I couldn't cope with it, and I asked for some space. And so we had space for about 3 months, went no contact in the January after emailing back and forth, trying to kind of put my point of view across, trying to get her to understand what I needed to try and help the relationship so it was more authentic. And then the reason that kind of that no contact got broken is because my sister arranged a big family gathering and I was the only one that was not invited. Now, obviously, I haven't spoken to her for 3 years, so I wasn't expecting an invite necessarily. What was hurtful about that is she has had no contact with any of my family, and neither has my mum for many years. And my mum's rekindled lots of relationships that she used to fall out with me over having those relationships with my
Yes,
aunties.
which was in your original letter,
Yes.
wasn't it? That she
Yes.
suddenly was going, oh, I've got this friend, that friend, and this cousin, that cousin, this aunt, that aunt, and
Yeah.
you've been punished for maintaining those relationships, but suddenly it's okay because she's all over it.
I mean, to the point where the night before my wedding, my mum and dad and me had a screaming row because of a birthday cake that I had from one of my aunties, whose birthday, a special birthday it was at that time. It's because they didn't even want her there in the first place. They told me that she shouldn't come. And now they're regularly in contact. So it's very confusing, but also on top of that, obviously, then my sister's now kind of been let back into the fold. Like 2 years ago, there was a big family barbecue that she never usually attends. There's one every year. Both my mum and my sister came to that one, which is not normal, and she ended up, my sister, having to be removed from the party and put on a train home because she was just so awful and screaming and shouting at my auntie and my mum. And so this is only 2 years ago. Like I just don't
Right.
understand how. I guess I think with therapy that I've done in the past, accountability feels like a massive theme for me. Like I need people to be held accountable for things, and that does not happen in my family. And so that's really hard. And yeah, and authenticity. I just feel like everyone's so fake and that everyone's dancing around each other with these kind of nothing feels real with these relationships. And I know that that's what they're doing now. Like they just walked back in and no one's holding them accountable. No one's asking why there's been no contact for 20 years. And now
Right.
this party happened and I wasn't a part of it. That instigated some contact with my mum. And then we kind of had a bit of a row, got into a conversation around whether we could maybe look at being a part of each other's lives again. And I asked if she would consider some sort of counselling together. And she
Right.
point blank refused. And that's the second time I've asked her. So the first time was when I went no contact in January. And then I asked her again, but was a bit more explicit about, well, don't you think this is, we've had 9 months no contact. Can we revisit this? Would you be open to it? And again, I just got no, and not just no, it was no, and I don't owe you an explanation as to why. So that's where I am. So I feel discarded now, whereas I initiated it a few months ago. Now I'm really struggling with the one person in the whole world who should love me doesn't. And where does that leave me now?
Right. Her ego is more important than her relationship with you.
Yeah.
And you said, as at the beginning when we were talking about goals or what you wanted from the time, you asked if estrangement is the right course. And I'm interested to know why that's a question.
I suppose because this last few weeks, since those conversations happened, I feel like I've just been punched, and like I just feel like all that healing that I thought I'd been doing is just I'm right back to square one. Does that mean this is the wrong course of action? Because I feel worse than I did I think when we were in contact. But then equally, when I start thinking about what contact again would look like,
Mm.
I can almost feel physically that and that was the thing that made me go no contact in the first place. It was the physical response I got whenever I had any sort of contact with my mum, a message or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's interesting you said that you were right back to square one. Is that actually true?
I don't know. It feels that way
Why does it feel like that?
because I feel like I'm not functioning as I should. Like it's completely just taken over everything again. And I'm
When you
des
say it, what do you mean by it? It's completely taken over everything.
the feelings of being abandoned by my mum has completely taken over my stability within my mental health, I guess.
Okay, so the feelings of being abandoned have been reignited by her re-abandonment of you.
Yes.
Her adamancy of I'm not going to try, and I don't care whether you want to know why or not. I'm not going to give a shit about your feelings. Essentially, I'm going to just not go to therapy and tough luck.
Yeah.
And out of interest, did she say anything about being in contact with you, or like whether she had any kind of? You smiled. What was that? There was a.
I smile because she has been very clear that she's been respected my boundaries, which she has, and not been in touch, and that I'm the one that's breaking the boundaries and getting in touch with her. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm trying to resolve things
Oh,
again.
she's sitting on her little high horse.
Hmm.
There's something so punitive and disgusting about that. My child reached out to me, so I'm going to use it as a weapon to club her over the head with of her disrespect and her why I shouldn't have to comply or cooperate, negotiate with her as to how a relationship could work.
Well, I think because I've always been labelled the controlling one because I've always, for many years, understood there was something that wasn't quite okay with my family, not being able to necessarily
Right,
name it until more recently. But I remember like when my son was born, my second son, after the first time, because they lived in Portugal for a long time. And so
right.
coming over was always very tricky because then they would have nowhere to stay, so they would want to stay with us. And so after my first son was born and that happened, I was like, never again. So second time, we got an Airbnb in the village, made it really clear my sister wasn't welcome. And of course,
Right.
all of a sudden yeah, like she's suddenly got a job in the same city as me and oh, she needs somewhere to stay. Bearing in mind
What,
they're
your
only
sister, this is, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So they then enabled her to stay with them so that she could access this work more easily rather than traveling. And and I was the controlling one who's just had a baby and just desperate for no kind of drama. And they just didn't listen. And I was oh, it was just horrible. And so in the end, of course, she's only just down the road. They're visiting us for tea. Oh, your poor sister, she's on her own. Like, can she just pop it? So obviously, I cave in under pressure, and it was just really, really hard. And that I think is, I mean, there wasn't huge screaming. Well, actually, no, there were screaming rounds. I'm just trying to remember. It wasn't the worst thing that's happened, but it just gives an example of like, I think there's so much with my sister. Whenever there's a problem with my mum and dad, my sister somehow was always included in that. And me and my sister now have no contact. We hate each other, really. Like, it's really hard. She describes me
Right.
as poisonous. I would say the same about her. And I feel we've always been labelled a problem together. And I have a brother who's just kind of managed to keep out the invisible child. But it just feels very difficult. And now, I guess one of the things I'm trying to get to is that my mum isn't able to have a relationship with both me and my sister at the same time. And so now that me and my mum are not speaking, she's rekindled that relationship with my sister, which after some awful things that have happened in the last couple of years since, while my dad was dying, she was screaming at my mum. Like, it was just her behaviour, I think, is unforgivable personally. And now she's best friends, and I found out literally yesterday she's just gone on holiday with her abroad, just the two of them, which is absolutely unheard of because they just couldn't ever be in the same room for more than an hour without argument. So it just feels, what is going on? What? And she labels this as
Go on.
forgiveness. Yeah, she's in her messages to me recently. She's kind of said, I'm able to forgive your sister for what's happened. And in the spirit of forgiveness, this is what I want. My last few years, since your dad's gone, I'm looking at things differently. I'm forgiving people. It's like, okay, but what about me in that?
So she and your sister and your mother have always had a really tense relationship. Your sister behaved horribly when your father was dying. They then were not in any kind of contact, is that right? And then have rekindled a relationship in the last 9 months since you went no contact. Is that also right?
It's been on and off for the last 3 years, more off than on. But
Right.
yes, since
Okay.
she moved over, because she's also closer to my sister physically as well, although we're about an hour apart. So I mean, that's another whole thing, because they're both in my safe space that I've just spent 25 years building. And now I could bump into them at any time, which is just a very strange feeling. But yeah. Sorry.
There's also the fact that... Why are you apologising?
I've forgotten what you asked. I think I feel like I went off track.
No, I just was trying to understand. I was just summarising and trying to kind of make sure I had understood correctly. There is another element of this, which is that, do you know what? Sorry, I know why you are confused as to what we should be trying to achieve, because there are so many different threads to pull on, to pull down, to clarify, untangle, and understand. And yet I think possibly they all say the same thing, which is they never choose me. How does that feel? Is that hitting a bit?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, they never have. It's always been me that's had to make any sort of effort with the relationships. And yet
it's almost like you're kind of polyfiller. Like, you fill in the gaps, but when the shiny new toy comes along, that you get replaced immediately. And so your sister holds some kind of power that overshadows you, so that when you're out of the way, or, so the reason I'm saying that thing about they don't choose me is, you have, in your original letter, and from what you just said then, you have cultivated, maintained, nurtured relationships with extended family members against your mother's wishes, despite punishment, despite the screaming matches before your wedding, the day before, may I add, which is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And your sister hosts a barbecue or arranges a family gathering, doesn't invite you. Where are all the other family members in terms of standing up for you?
Well, so when I initially found out, and of course it was via Facebook photos, which my husband saw, and we were on holiday. And again, this is why I kind of got into touch with you, because I was so destabilized while we were on holiday. I was like, why is my energy going into this? Why is it bothering me? But it was when that was the thing. It was like, I know I wouldn't be invited, but why did no one tell me? And it turns out she told people that I had been invited and declined. But annoyingly, no one had kind of raised it with me. Like, I guess it's just that kind of summer holidays. Everyone's got kids' busy time. We don't check in, like, we're not speaking every day. So it just didn't come up in.
Okay, but why did nobody say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you're not going to make it to the event"?
I don't know. And but Helen, that's really hard for me, because I just think, well, where am
This is why
I?
I think it's so confusing. Because you said, is estrangement the right course? I've gone back to square one. I challenged that of the square one. And what I actually hear is, I don't want to notice how painful this is. And maybe if I can tolerate a relationship with her, I'll have what I wanted back, what I've worked to maintain all these years. Is that correct or not?
Maybe it's better the devil you know.
Is there a fear that you are the problem, that it is you that's the thing?
Yeah.
What evidence have you got to support that?
I suppose been told it for the whole of my life.
Mm-hmm. Anything, but real evidence? So if I say to you, one of the things I was told a lot growing up was how thoughtless I am, how inconsiderate I am. And yet I put huge amounts of thought into things like gifts for occasions like presents and stuff, or, over the weekend, I was sending a couple of messages to people that I haven't spoken to for a while, just checking in, making sure they're okay. I know I'm a thoughtful person. I am thoughtful, and the evidence is there to support that. But it served them to tell me I was thoughtless, to make me try harder to prioritize them in my thinking, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if you apply that to you, so you said about they call you the controlling one, what evidence do they have for you being controlling?
It's when I put boundaries in. So, for example, you can't stay here. You can't stay here when, we just had a baby, but you can stay down the road just so that we have a bit of space.
Right, and that made you controlling because why?
Because that's not what they wanted.
Right. So it was because you didn't just comply. You didn't meet the demand.
There was a cost implication for them, so that was unfair. But then they chose to move to Portugal too, so anyway, yeah, it was those things. Like, it was when they wanted to come over and me saying, actually, you can, but like, you're not staying with us now because it's too hard. So it's
Right.
yeah, that's where I was controlling. I was usually trying to control. So I would, if there was a family gathering that wasn't something obviously that I would instigate, because I wouldn't instigate anything apart from having a baby. There was things like Christmas or whatever. And I would say, yes, I'll come, but I'm going to come for that evening. I'm not going to stay over. I'll travel back. Like, I would, but then that would be controlling, because that's not, again, what they wanted me to do. And I was then told I was the reason for the dysfunction within the family. Because I
What,
would.
just one person?
Yeah, just me. Of course, just
Wow.
me. But then also,
It's
I
not.
guess that contradicts something I said earlier, and I do think because there was a very much a narrative that me and my sister were very difficult, and we were because we always argued, because we were always pit against each other,
Right.
and so actually, yeah, so it's not always just me, but I don't know that I'm not making sense now, am I? I just realised
Yeah, you are.
contradicting
You
myself a
are.
bit. Mm.
Do you feel like you're trying to deceive me in some way? Is that what's happening?
No, I'm just trying to work out. I feel like maybe I was being unfair because it was both of us, but then I've also been told many a time that it was just me. So I don't know.
Okay, so yes, there would have been a both of you statement. Is that in adulthood as well as childhood, or is that
Oh yeah,
just in childhood?
yeah, no,
So it's all the way through.
it's main. I think to be honest, more so in adulthood.
So, and when would that sort of thing be said about you both?
Whenever there'd been a disagreement within the family at some point.
With you two disagreeing, or her and you two what would?
Any of us. So if there was a problem between me and my sister and it got back to them, then it would be, they would then try and get involved and try and sort it out. Or often there might be a disagreement between my mum and my sister, so then we would all somehow be dragged into that, and that would be her. Do you know? I don't. Yeah, I think it was just always there's just always been conflict, but it's always been all of us dragged into whatever was going on with two of them.
Right, right. So when this conflict would happen, did your mother ever say, I shouldn't have said this, or my part is?
Never.
No, you look like, no, never. And because obviously nobody's going to see your video. So I'm like, I get to see the physical reaction of like, don't be ridiculous, Phyllis. Like, not a chance. No.
No, never.
No. Right. So she would blame you both when you would either argue with each other or one of you would argue with her.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, I just want to really understand this dynamic. So I don't know why I apologized. Let me rephrase that. I would really like to make sure I've understood the dynamic correctly. So if I may just clarify further. Say your mother argued with your sister and she came to you and said, oh my God, your sister's done X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. And you said, oh my God, she's awful. I can't believe she would do that. Then what would happen?
It would, I guess, validate her for a bit, and then maybe a week later they'd be back in contact like nothing had happened. But
would you get the you're the problem comment there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, we would both be like, well, you're always doing this. Is really stressful for me and your dad. Like, this is really hard for us. So just, yeah. But that would be, I'm just trying to think this through a bit more. I mean, she would literally be like the world had ended when there was an argument. Whether that be with me or her, my sister or whatever.
So even if you backed up her, she would still say that you were part of the problem?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, because it would be part of the family pattern, and I was a part of that.
Okay, so then it might. So if I just give what I'm imagining, okay, which would be, I don't know where I've gone wrong with you both. You're just both so argumentative, yes, and why can't you? Right. Okay, got you. Okay. Yes. So any way in which this goes, you get vilified, even if you're validating her and backing her up.
Yes. Maybe not
So,
initially, maybe not in that moment, but it would come back
right.
to it, because what would happen, say a week later, they would be best of friends again. But she would hide that from me until, like, she might let it slip, "Oh, I'm meeting with your sister." "Oh, right, okay, so everything's all right now, is it?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course it is." Like, it would be always very dismissed.
Like
And
you're
then
a dumbass for like
yeah,
ever
yeah.
thinking that they might. Right. Okay.
And yet,
Gaslighting. Like.
a week
Okay.
before, she's like, "I'm never speaking to your sister again. I'm not having this. She can't be like this with us." So, and it was so easily discarded. Like, we were all so easily discarded after doing something they didn't like. And, to the point where I might have even put that in the letter, that they didn't have any friends. When they moved away to Portugal, they'd lived in the
Mm.
same village for 20 years, and they had no friends left because they'd fallen out one by one with absolutely everybody. I've never known them to really have like close friendships. Or,
What
I
about
mean,
you?
obviously with relationships with family, they've all fallen out with their siblings. Sorry, what
Do you
about
have close
me?
friendship? Yeah. Have you
Yeah,
got close friendships? Long term ones?
yes. I've
Mm.
See, it's something that really I really worry about, because I try really hard in my friendships. I don't have loads and loads of friends, but the ones I do, I find it really difficult to be around people who I don't feel like there's kind of any sort of connection. So I feel so part of me is very much like my mum. I feel like I'm quite dismissive, I'm quite judgmental, as much as I try not to be. But then the friendships I do have, I really hold close, and are really important to me. Like my auntie, who's
Right.
always been there for me. Like, I would say that I'm very close.
Right.
So, but then when things do maybe go wrong, or like with acquaintances or school mums or whatever, where you kind of have a bit of a friendship, but then maybe, I don't know, I just feel like I can be quite dismissive too, and I worry that I do worry, like I'm like my mum, even like with my parenting and all sorts of things. Like, it really frightens me sometimes, as much as I try so hard not to be like her. I feel like it's almost all I know, because that's all I was ever shown.
Okay. Tell me what you understand dismissive to mean.
Dismissive.
How, yeah, and how what do you understand it to mean first? Let's
Okay, so
start there.
dismissive as, it's almost like a rudeness, like just kind of very, I can't think of the words. Just, yeah, just I feel like that, like very kind of pushing away.
So
Um,
you're doing this
yeah,
motion. So what? Keeping people at arm's length, not letting people
yes,
in.
yeah, maybe, yeah. That's different though, isn't it? That's not dismissive.
I mean, exactly. But this is why I want to understand it. So you said rudeness, keeping people away. In what else would be evidence of what else would dismissive be?
So I'm thinking, just not being fully you, like just being standoffish. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Standoffish rather than
Okay.
dismissive. Yeah.
How is your mother dismissive?
Of me, or of
Oh, of
people.
anyone. Oh, yeah. When you think about your mother's dismissiveness, what does it look like?
She she's just outright rude to people.
Have you got an
Like,
example?
okay, just, oh God, but this is strangers, but just in the street, and someone walks in front of her, and she'd be just like sighing and huffing and make a real big thing about it. And that's maybe not dismissive in that respect, but dismissive, or she just wouldn't be friendly. She would just be very guarded and very, right, words aren't coming to me today, Helen. I can't, just
I just wonder if
cold.
you. Okay,
Mm,
so cold. I just wonder if you even understand what you're
mm.
conflating for you and her, because it doesn't sound the same at all. You said that you can be dismissive and judgmental, and so mum is cold. What that huffing and puffing, passive aggressive, is what I would call that. Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm walking here. Do you mind?" Or being like, "Oh, they're in a rush" or something. Instead of just putting it down to whatever she's communicating her displeasure with huffs and grunts and puffs and what have you, right?
Yeah.
So dismissive. I heard you describing her being dismissive when you said that if you said, "Oh, is that all okay?" Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Dismissing any concern you might have.
Yeah.
I hear dismissiveness in you being called controlling for not hosting them when you have a brand new baby. In that, like, your needs are unimportant. The pressure on you is unimportant. The thing that you want as the person who has just given birth is irrelevant. What we want is more important, as in to stay. And it was interesting that you justified to me why it was okay for them to stay in the hotel rather than in your house. Did you notice yourself doing it?
No, I didn't. No.
And now I've noticed it to you. Do you know which bit it was? Can you think what
I
you
think
did?
it was just, did I say about how it had gone really difficult before? And so I was trying to, I don't know, actually, I don't know what I said.
Well, you said that you knew that they'd moved away abroad and that they were,
Okay.
that meant there was a cost involved for them, and that you understood, like, okay, but you've just had a baby. They are choosing to visit, and it wouldn't even occur to me to say, "I want to stay at your place," and then moan when you say, "Actually, do you mind staying at the hotel?" What I would actually do is say, "Look, I'd love to come and visit you, but I don't want to put you under any pressure. Would it be helpful if I stay and help with the house and stuff like that? Because that would be my plan if I'm coming to visit somebody with a brand new baby. Or would you rather I stayed in a hotel down the road?" Right?
Yeah.
Because I want you to be in control of your environment, because it's yours. You're already recovering from a huge physically traumatic event. And I say that babies being born are lovely and everything else, but the toll it takes on our bodies is huge. If you have and I hate this word, natural, with inverted commas, birth, but if you have any complications, a long labour, a C-section, any intervention of any description, there's another layer of recovery on top. And for both my children, I had C-sections. And I remember that kind of, if I had been in any other surgery that didn't produce a small human, I'd have been told to kind of rest for weeks. And I mean, they do no lifting anything heavier than a kettle. Well, this baby's going to be heavier than that pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
And we are just told to get on with it, right? So that's the time when everybody would hopefully be going, "Let me come and help you. I'll come and do the washing up. I'll come and cook you dinners. Here's stuff for your freezer," etc., etc. None of that, no?
No. The whole time I was made to feel guilty for excluding my sister. And to the point where they were just like, "No, actually, do you know what? We're not going to have tea with you today. We're going to go out. We're going to do this. We're going to go off with your sister. She's had a hard day at work." Making it very clear that the choice was, because they didn't agree. And so this is a pattern that was obviously after my wedding, but like a few months before me and my husband got engaged, there was a huge bust up just before a funeral, as it happens. And again, it was one we'd all travel to. It was my granddad. they had a cottage and we were in a hotel opposite, and my sister had been goading me the whole way down. Like, I was in a tricky place with lots of things going on in my personal life, which she knew about, and was making things really, really difficult. We had this meal at the cottage, and it was near Christmas, and she brought loads of presents for us and the kids, and we'd all agreed before that we weren't going to do that. So she, little things that were just to not kind of respecting those kind of boundaries. And then, I can feel myself getting
What's
really
happening?
anxious. I can just remembering how awful it was,
Take a
because I
breath.
think.
Hang on. Do you need to pause? Do you need to ground?
I'm okay.
Are you sure?
I'm okay. Yeah. Thank you.
We can, anytime you want to, we can. Okay.
Thanks,
And I
Helen.
can help you. Okay.
Thank you.
Carry on. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. So she was coming, like, she was being one way to me, and then in front of everyone else was just being lovely and kind and fun, and I was just looking like I was in a mood, and like I was creating the difficulties. And then we went into the kitchen, and she cornered me, like literally physically cornered me in the kitchen, and was like right up in my face, and was shouting at me, like, kind of, well, not shouting because we should have been heard, but like saying all this horrible stuff. And then I just pushed past her, managed to get away, and she punched me in my back as I was walking away. And I was literally just shaking, and I went into the room where everyone else was sat, and I just said, I need to leave. My sister's just hit me. And she walked through, she's like, oh my God, what are you talking about? And completely denied it. And because of the way I'd been behaving, because I was so dysregulated, I just didn't know what to do. I was frightened. I didn't know what she was going to do. And yeah, it was awful. And then later on that night, we ended up in a big fight. My sister attacked me in front of my parents. I ended up having to call the police, actually. This is the worst thing that ever kind of went on. And they, despite them witnessing it all, because I was the one that was dysregulated in front of everyone, I got the blame. They were disgusted with me for calling the police and involving the police. I mean,
So wait, they witnessed her berating you?
By that point, yeah, but so it was, the way they saw it was I had started it, because I'd come in and I was angry, and I'd been like, I don't know why you've done this, why you've been like this. And then but I was furious, like I was absolutely furious. So they saw that, and then my sister kind of attacked me. Eventually she stopped. I don't know whether my mum pulled her off me eventually, and then she went outside, and then when I left, she was waiting for me and attacked me again. Then that was where my dad saw.
So she physically attacked you?
Yes. And then, so the reason I'm telling you this is because a few months later we got engaged, and I obviously didn't want her at my wedding. And then
Of course.
I was not only did I want her not as a bridesmaid as my sister, but I didn't want her at the wedding. Eventually, my mum and dad wore us down to the point where Renee can go, okay, she can come to the wedding, but she's not a bridesmaid. It ruined that whole lead up to the wedding. Unfortunately, that's all I remember. And then the funniest thing was, obviously the night before my wedding, we had a big row, but before my sister left, she was like, oh, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what? She goes, just want to show you my dress. And she'd chosen the same colour dress as my bridesmaids. And the way she pulled me to one side, I think she was starting to feel guilty because she was like, oh my God, I need to let you know. I mean, I just think you're an idiot. But she did exactly the same at my brother's wedding as well. She wore the same colour as bridesmaids because she just felt entitled she should have been a bridesmaid. So yeah.
Jesus. Okay. I'm going to rewind you for a minute. You've mentioned you've got children.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do they fight ever now? Do they ever
Yes.
scrap? Kids do,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yep.
So if one starts it and the other one gets physical, what happens?
I actually find that really, really hard. So I get really triggered.
Of course you do, first of all.
And now they're getting bigger as well. Like they do a little bit more damage, especially the two boys. But what do? I try and scream at them and I try and physically stop them, and then I guess separate them, and then send them to the
What
rooms.
happens to the one that throws the first punch?
He would be in more trouble.
Why is that?
Because he started it. But then there's always...
Even if it's a reaction, right? It doesn't matter, right? Because siblings are going to fight. It's really normal. And actually, it's a really important part of childhood that siblings fight without intervention until it gets to the point where it is physical, right? Because at that point, there is not resolution happening. And I mean, bickering and fighting to the point of, that's my toy. No, it's my toy. I want to play with it. I said I was playing, that to, well, fine. You play with it for 5 minutes and then I'll have it for 5 minutes. Fine. Okay. Right. We try and let them, and when they're younger, you support them through that process of negotiation, because again, conflict is meant to be about resolution, not winning, right? It's not competition, which obviously is so misunderstood just socially anyway. But when it comes to siblings fighting, we're helping them understand how to negotiate. What is the core problem? What do you need from him? What do you need from him or her, whichever way? And then, okay, so you've heard that they need that. They need that. What is it? Where can we find a place where both of you can be somewhat happy, or one of you can walk away and just let it go? Right? So we negotiate that with them. The moment it gets physical, it's straight in. Absolutely not. That is unacceptable. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to be annoyed and upset, but you are absolutely never to use hands or fists or feet or physical contact in any way, shape or form. And verbal assault is the same. Okay, so me screaming at you, or you screaming at your sibling, is the same as you punching him. And so I will not tolerate any of that in this house, and that will result in these consequences, right? Because physical assault is physical assault, right? And verbal assault is also assault. So there's a very hard boundary. But the person who gets held accountable, whilst the other one is going to be challenged on the way they approach things and what they might have done, because they also may well have goaded, go on then, hit me, go on then, go on, because they know they're going to get that one in trouble. They're also held accountable, right? But if both your parents witnessed her physically attacking you and responded with how outrageous you are for calling the police, because this person, it's not that she's done it once, 3 times you've just described in the same evening, and she waited for you. That is deliberate. That's not an impulse. That is, I'm going to fuck you up and I'm going to stand out here and wait until I can. And I'm going to assault you again. And you were in literal danger at that point. And their response is, how could you call the police? You're the problem.
It took me months before I was months of begging them to kind of let me back in the family after that.
Wait, you got excluded?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What?
For months.
And what happened to her?
Oh, they rallied round her. She was a victim. So they were. I mean, the next day was a funeral, and I had to go around and apologise to them all. I had to make a big thing, and then I had to sit through a funeral.
Who said you had to apologise?
My parents. I had to apologise to them, and oh my God, it was just this is a whole big thing. I did it because I knew that's what I needed to do, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have even been allowed to go to the funeral that day.
Look at how much power they keep telling you that they've got. Who gets to
Yeah.
decide who goes to the funeral? Why do they get to decide whether or not you're at the funeral?
Well, I mean, this is where my dad, like, that he was the one in control. If whatever he said
But
goes.
100%. But
Yeah.
see how we buy into their power.
Yes.
We believe them because we do, because of course we do, because they raised us and that we're conditioned. But when we get to that point of, you can't stop me going to a funeral. Like, who do you think you are? You can't make me apologize for something that isn't my fault, right? But that's that thing of that default blame of, well, they've said I'm wrong, so I must be wrong, so I have to believe it, right? But months to convince you to come back into the fold, back into the family. If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye. Go on, what were you going to say?
I was just thinking that, so then the next kind of thing that happened, not in a bad way, but we got engaged. And so we were on holiday and I wasn't expecting it. It was lovely. And then we had like maybe halfway through the holiday, that was when that happened. So we were able to enjoy the rest of that. And I was out dreading like having to come back and say, this is what's happened, just because I don't know, that week before we told everyone was just really special. Got back, did a Skype call, because like I say, they were abroad. And my mum response, oh, now we know you can keep a secret. That was her first,
from that letter. But
I mean, it just, and we often quote it, me and my husband, because it's just, I still find it so shocking that was the first words out of her mouth. And that in itself, I just think says so much about who she is.
Was it that made me say, do you remember if it was that prompted me to
suggest? I really can't remember now. I don't
wish I
what
could
it
remember.
was.
But that level of entitlement, that accusation of privacy as secrecy, the idea that you having anything she doesn't know about, being deliberate withholding and manipulation, and yet they have a massive family gathering and don't even tell you it's happening, let alone invite you. Right? The accusation of secrecy being like this. There's nothing really wrong with having secrets either, right? Because there is this confusion when we grow up in these systems that we are taught this, that they're entitled to every part of our lives, that we're not allowed privacy because it's deemed as manipulation and what was the one I used to hear? Lying by omission, deceitful, because I didn't, right? Because I'd met a new friend or was interested in someone or whatever it might be and hadn't shared that, being a case of me being deliberately manipulative around information. But of course, that's because information is currency, right? And I'm curious to know whether there was anger if your husband didn't ask for permission.
Oh, yeah.
To marry you.
And initially,
because then they would have known.
Yeah, and I was so disappointed with him. Initially.
Right.
In that moment when I found out after, and I was like, oh my God, did you ask my dad? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh my God, that means he'll hate you. It was more the fact that I knew that he would be judged on that, and he was. And I think that really did set the scene with that relationship, because I just feel like
you were fearful.
Yeah. And then, but I mean, interestingly, he didn't tell anyone. Like, he didn't tell his own parents. So, but they didn't have that reaction. They were, They responded how you would want them to.
Right.
So I
Which
think, and
was?
which
How
was,
did you want?
they were so excited and happy. I mean, they picked us up from the airport, so it was a bit different to doing a Skype call. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was just, they were just so excited and happy, and
Wait, hang
it
on.
was,
Wait, sorry. Was that you just saying to me they got some privilege over your parents because they got to hear it in person, and then that your parents maybe were a little bit justified in being arsy about it because it was over Skype?
that wasn't, maybe that was an
It
inadvertent.
sounded like it.
Mm,
That you can understand maybe why it was easier for
well, I
them
don't,
to be happier for
it
you.
it was the physical nature. I'm just imagining the hugs that I got from my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, whereas obviously that's not physically able, but yeah, thank God there wasn't. Otherwise, there probably would have been no physical aspect, and that would have just highlighted even more how unhappy they were.
And once again, they were living abroad, right?
Yes.
So how on earth are you going to give them the news in person,
Yeah. And also,
right?
that was another reason why, one of the reasons why my husband didn't ask my dad, because he'd only met him at that point about 4 times, and one of them was at that funeral. So,
Oh, fuck. Sorry, language, but not language. No, why? I'm not apologising. Sorry. Sorry. Ah! Okay. Do you know, it strikes me your mother uses your sister as competition,
oh
as
yes,
something. Your Is estrangement the right course? And yet you're telling me all these dynamics, all this toxicity, and you're talking about even feeling it in your body
I feel
as
sick.
you talk about it,
Mm.
right? Do you need to pause? Are we okay?
No. It's just amazing what it taught. Remembering these things physically does. And
Right.
like I said to you earlier, so I know I've interrupted about
No, it's
earlier
fine.
on, was it was the reason, it was the noticing, the physical response that I would have whenever I was around my mum, the physical triggers in me,
Okay.
and I was like, this is not normal a year ago, and that was what kind of led me down to the path. Actually, maybe this is where I need to start thinking about going no contact, and
Okay.
so yeah.
And up until this recent exchange of
Mm.
emails or whatever it was it emails
Yeah,
or was it a
emails.
phone call?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
emails.
emails. Yeah.
So after this, up to this recent exchange of emails, what was it like in those months in no contact
On the whole,
physically?
it felt so much better. I think that, when I've said going back to square one, I think that's why I'm really confused, because I did feel that peace and that relief that a lot of people say they feel when they go no contact.
Hmm.
Oh, why didn't I do this sooner? I felt like that for many months. So I
Right.
don't know. I
Until
don't understand why it so floored me now.
in tell me what it was. You have just told me, but I'm going to ask you to do it again.
Hmm.
What made you go no contact? What triggered you to go no contact?
The physical response in my body when I be around her.
Okay. And during the period up until these emails, you've not had that reaction, that response, that experience?
Oh yeah, I have. In the
In what?
emails.
In what? But before
Sorry.
the emails, sorry,
Oh, before
in the
the emails.
period between, have you had that experience other than where
No.
you might be thinking about her or talking about her?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
haven't.
And you feel like you've gone back to square one because you had this experience again when she emailed you. You've had these emotions and physical
Yes,
responses.
yes.
Or what else could it be?
I don't know.
You removed her from your environment. She was not there to trigger you. She gets back in touch and you become triggered. It's not square one, it's your brain saying danger. Your brain is literally doing what it's meant to do. It's your survival.
But it
You
was a
removed
month
yourself.
ago. Mm.
Doesn't matter. What is it that, because you're still experiencing them now?
Mm.
And tell me, a month ago, there was this family gathering that your sister arranged.
That
Nobody
was
told
actually,
you about.
that was a little bit
Okay, go
before.
on.
Okay. So that was August. And then
Right.
um and then that kind of happened and went away, and then there was the instigate was actually my son's birthday. So she got in touch and she said, "Can we meet so I can give you his present?" And I was just like, "No," because I know that was just a case of, oh, let's just pretend nothing's happened and let's go back to it the way it was. It was kind of an underlying thing, and that was when the emails happened around, what are we, you know, how can we resolve this mess? Can we do
Right.
counselling?
So prior to these emails,
Hmm.
had there been, sorry, what, with the party, was there anything, with your sister's party, was there any contact around that?
Yes. Yeah, there was quite a lot.
Between you and your mother?
So between me and my mum, and also my husband and my sister.
Okay.
But that's a
And
whole other thing.
it's all right. When you had that conversation with your mother then, what happened to you physically around
Uh,
the party?
so that was when we were actually on holiday. So
It
it made me
consumed
feel
you.
poorly. Yeah, consumed me. Yeah.
So you got triggered then,
Hmm.
and so that was in August.
Yes.
And then we're now at the end of September,
Hmm.
and about a month ago, which would
Hmm.
only be the beginning of September.
Yes. Yes. So it's
So
like
not
just maybe
far off.
about 3 weeks later. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when the party thing happened, was it you or her that got in touch initially?
I
Was
got
it?
in touch with my mum and was like,
And what did you say?
why did you let that happen? Why were you not supporting me being there? And then that triggered a big row, and then went quiet. And then she got back in touch with me. So normally I've
Okay.
blocked her, and then
Okay.
she got back in touch
All right.
because of my son's birthday.
So she saw your engagement as the right to re-engage herself and
I
used
think so.
your son's birthday as an excuse. Have there been any other birthdays prior to this birthday?
Yeah, there'd been two others. Yeah.
And had they been acknowledged or sent gifts or anything?
Yes, but at that, so I guess the difference was the two birthdays previous, my husband was still in contact with my mum and supporting her having a relationship with the children. After this incident with the gathering that we weren't invited to, and the way she then responded to me, we made a decision to cut the contact with the kids as well, which was something I'd been umming and ahhing about anyway because it felt strange. And there's lots of, there's a whole other thing I could go into about why, but so I guess this was the first birthday where she wasn't allowed direct contact with the children. And
Right.
so, but I mean, it was also a massive excuse because one, as you know, she lives now close by, so she could have
Mm-hmm.
easily dropped the present off when she thought maybe we were at work, or even if we weren't, or just post it. Like there was never any need for her to make contact with me.
And didn't actually need to wait for a birthday at all if
Well,
she
yeah,
wanted to find a resolution. It was
yes,
just a leapfrog and a
yeah,
justification. Well, I've tried to send things for the birthday and she won't let me.
yeah. And
Right? So she can paint you as the villain.
exactly, and I've
Yeah?
told
Yeah.
her no more presents. I don't want anything from you.
Good. Okay.
Um, but again, like there's judgment on me from my auntie there, and she's like, that wasn't very nice. And I said, but why would I want things off her when I don't want to be in contact with her? It feels like I'm just then all take and there's no relationships. Anyway, she now understands, but that was really hard. Like, I just feel like having to
Yeah.
justify myself to people that I thought got it.
But was your auntie at this party and didn't say
Yeah,
anything as well?
yeah, but she didn't. In her defense, she wasn't meant to be there. She wasn't going to go, and then she ended up dropping in at the end, just for like the last 20 minutes.
So she wasn't meant to be there. She wasn't going to go. She went for the last 20 minutes, but she knew about it.
Yeah,
She didn't tell you. She didn't say anything.
no. And that's why it does hurt that these family members were there.
I really noticed the betrayal. It feels like a really big betrayal and a really big disappointment that relationships you have spent your entire life fighting for seem to be dropped in the moment of your mother going, "I'm back," and with your sister. Also, the fact that your sister is arranging a family gathering in itself is just ridiculously manipulative. It's so intentional, right?
Yeah, and I think people recognise that now. They understand that the situation. I've been told, we can see the manipulation, and we're just trying to keep the peace by not getting, not holding her accountable, not holding her accountable, just like my mum.
Keeping the peace. Do you know, I don't know where I recorded this with Paul that I do my newsletters and true crime stuff with. We were talking about silence being, I know exactly where it was, because we were talking about sexual abuse against children and silence being compliance.
Yes.
Right? Keeping the peace for who? Whose peace is being kept when we keep the peace? Because all I hear is their peace and your mother's peace, right? I don't hear your peace being protected by these relationships that you have cultivated, protected, fought for, suffered for at the hands of your mother, who seems to be able to swan in, erase all of that, and they seem to be choosing her over you.
So then that just goes back into that kind of core belief that I'm the problem, I'm the bad one.
No, what I'm going to do is challenge it and say everyone in that system is also a product of that system. The difference is you have done therapy, research, reading, like learning, understanding. You've written to me before. In fact, you wrote twice when I was doing Insight. You've had other communication with me around sessions and stuff, which we've never gone forward with. But the fact is you have been looking to understand yourself, your part, them and their parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many of them have done that?
I don't think any of them have.
Right. So if their family system is one that is rooted, or the dynamic rather, is rooted in narcissism or narcissistic behavior, they're not changing any patterns and you are. And it's only in that context that you become a problem within very heavily inverted commas, because you are calling out the toxicity. You said right at the beginning that there's, and I've written it down because this is what I do. I write these little notes. And if anyone watches the video on YouTube, they'll be like, Helen's not even listening. I am. I'm writing notes so that I can see the threads and pull things out. And there's no accountability and no authenticity, is what you said. Not from your mother and sister, from the wider family. That's what you said about it. You talked about it after the barbecue. You said at the barbecue that happens every year, or that your sister a few years ago was removed and put on a train because her behaviour was so bad. And yet everyone pretends like it didn't happen. Now, if someone came to your party and behaved so badly that they needed to be removed and put onto a train to remove them, would they be invited back?
Not a chance.
If they came to you cap in hand and said, I'm really sorry, I got really drunk, I shouldn't have done that, I I'm so embarrassed and I'm really ashamed. Is there anything I can do to make up for it? Would you invite them back?
Definitely consider it, yeah.
And there being the word consider. It would depend for me personally on the relationship that's gone before, evidence of behavior before.
Well,
is this a one-off or is
yeah,
this a
yeah.
regular behavior, right? I would be looking at, is this something that I can excuse as a bad day, sunstroke and alcohol, or something like that? You know, is there justifiable trauma in the background that, or reasons in the background that explains that behavior?
Can I give a tiny bit more context to that as well?
Sure.
I left early because she was doing what she did to me back around that funeral. There was behaviours towards me, behaving one way,
Right.
and being lovely to everyone else, and I was like, I'm not having this, and my kids were there, and it was an overnight thing. So we left the first thing the next morning because this behaviour, there was just something building. I could see it, and I said that, and it wasn't easy leaving because they made me feel bad. They're like, she's not doing anything wrong. Like, there's no
And yet you knew.
problem. And I'm like, I can see the signs. I'm going, and I'm not having the kids around this. And so we left. And then a few hours later, that was when it all kicked off. Fortunately, for once, I wasn't there. And so, yeah. So I felt validated for about 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
it was never kind
A
of.
hollow victory almost. Let me ask you one question that's going to be somewhat challenging. Why is it you want a relationship with these people?
Without them, who am I? What do I have?
You tell me. Who are you? What do you have without
Okay,
them?
my husband and my children, and this is exactly the problem. This is where all my energy has gone for my whole life, and I'm not present for what I should be, the people who do truly love me and do really care for me.
Right. So you're fighting for relationships with people who ignore your concerns, ignore the abuse, who gaslight you about your sister's behaviour, who dismiss your concern. This is hitting hard, isn't it? Yeah. It's all right. Let it out. This is grief. Grief and regret and remorse and utter devastation that they could even consider behaving in this way. That you've put so much energy and effort into maintaining or having this family, but it looks like it might be a bit of a mirage.
It goes back to, I guess, when you're cutting off one person, but then there's all the flying monkeys, and there's just certain people that have been caught up in that I never expected.
The cost of self-protection is often revealing uncomfortable truth, painful truth. This is why I harp on and on and on about the idea that going no contact is not the easy road. The cost is phenomenal, you know, because so often the one who stands up and says, I'm not going to be in a situation where I'm abused and people continue to allow the abuser to do so, so often that person is ostracized as a result. And it's not because they're the problem, it's because the other people don't want to see the solution. They want to stay in their dissonance. But it seems like it hurts you physically as well as emotionally. Square one is not where you are. All that happened was you were triggered by the thing that you removed yourself from because it hurts you. That's why you removed yourself. Right? What are you feeling and thinking now?
I think you've just pointed out, I guess, the truth that I haven't wanted to face, which obviously is really difficult. It's all of them, isn't it? It's all of them that maybe I'm losing. And in particular, my aunt, who I think I even describe her as my guardian angel, kind of someone who I've just always been so close to, and she's been there through everything that's gone on with my mum, and now she's in the picture. My relationship is changed because I'm scared to put her in the middle, so I don't speak to her like we used to. Not as even, that's maybe why I didn't know about the thing in the first place, because I just don't talk to her like as regularly.
Tell me something. That aunt that has been by your side and been your guardian angel and witnessed so much and heard so much about this situation, these dynamics, and I'm making an assumption that you've told her about things like where your sister attacked you and that sort of stuff. Has she ever confronted your mother or father at the time when he was alive?
No. Everyone's frightened of them.
Okay.
Because they
hear
so
what you just hear what you're just saying. She has seen and heard this behaviour. You name her your guardian angel, but I hear no guarding.
I guess it felt like there had been up until the point that she was back in touch with my mum. As soon as my dad died, everything changed.
Right. And here's the other side of that, right? Is when you are so used to those tiny, tiny little breadcrumbs, somebody who just listens is going to feel like ambrosia from the gods. It's very realistic and reasonable, but when you were talking, I was trying to understand where she fit in that system. So this is your mum's sister who knows what your mum is like, also was no contact for a really long time with your mother, had a relationship with you, has heard all the things that your mother has been doing over the years. And then the minute your father dies and your mother goes, actually, I want us to all be in relationship again. It's like all the behaviour is forgotten. All the harm that's been done to you is forgotten. And you're sacrificed for her relationship with somebody who she's heard doing all these dreadful things. The word grief is the one that feels very, very central to this conversation. You asked, you said at the beginning about not knowing which way, what you actually want, and the question of, is estrangement the right course? And it feels a little bit like that toxic hope of the denial of the grief. If I can just fit into whatever mold they want me to be in, I can have my own denial of this system and how toxic it actually is. Because if I heard that two of my nieces, or rather one niece, had physically attacked the other niece, and that my sibling had punished the one who was attacked, I would go hell for fucking leather at him. I would call it out, and I have done. I've seen one child be blamed for the behaviour of another child, and me kind of go, and I literally just went, that's not okay. You can't do that. Oh, don't interfere. No, I will. I am going to bloody interfere. You've just blamed that child for that one doing something to them, physical. I don't care what the reason is. That's not okay. And eventually it was understood. And, you know, and it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It was hard because obviously you're criticising someone's parenting and we've got dynamics that can be tricky. But I'm not watching a child, no matter what age they are, be vilified for being abused, because that is what we're talking about, being assaulted. And I would be saying, are you out of your mind? Why didn't you call the police? Why are you, for a second, enabling that behaviour? It is so painful to realise how let down you maybe were, you know? Oh, well, you were. I'm trying to sugarcoat it, and I'm not sure that's helpful at all. There is the thing that I really notice is that your mother has set up a dynamic where you are competing for like the golden seat next to her. So she uses your relationship or envy or that she has created between you and your sister to try and force you to compete for that position, to get you into compliance again. So saying, like for example, this family gathering that she's organised and mum not saying a word about it and all this stuff or whatever, regardless of the fact that you're no contact, you know, she would have been thrilled that you were so hurt by that.
I know.
Because she knows there's a way back in for her there. You give her power when she hears how you feel, right? It's almost like handing her the knife. So she pits you against each other so that you fight for her attention, fight for her approval, to be the favoured one. And is it worth it? Is the question.
No, but something's just popped into my head that I feel like I need to say. Part of me has even thought maybe I should get back in contact with my mum just to piss off my sister, because it would just
because she knows,
create all of this upheaval again, where she thinks she's in
because you would feel like you had power. And it's really fucking galling that she gets to sit at mum's right hand and pretend they're like Bezzy mates when you've been witness to all the shit all these years. And then they're pretending, and every effort, every time you've contorted yourself, it's ignored and dismissed, right? And that makes us feel gross in lots and lots of ways. But what I would suggest is that when we are super focused on other people's behaviours like this, what we're probably doing is trying to avoid our own behaviour in it too. Not in the we are as guilty or toxic as them, but in the I'm ashamed I want that, or I gave that much power, or that I've tried this hard, that regret. Does that is that clear?
Yeah.
So you ruminate on their behaviour so you don't look at your behaviour that would then make you feel ashamed of yourself. and without any justification either, because you don't need to be ashamed for wanting your parent to love you and respect you. There's no shame in that at all. But the choice is yours entirely about whether or not you want to be in contact with them. But it's those three questions always. What will it cost me? What will I gain? Will it change the outcome? And when we looked at the cost in terms of your relationship with your husband and children, your energy being depleted by trying to manage and navigate and tolerate those relationships, it broke something in you. It brought up a huge amount of emotion. And that is the price you will be paying. Okay? So then the question is, what is the gain? What will you gain from these relationships that's worth those relationships? And how will it change how you feel about yourself, life, love, everything? Does it change anything?
Not for the better.
Okay. Is it worth the cost?
No.
No. And again, this is your decision to make. I can't make it for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But what is important is you know exactly what you are doing and why you're doing it, and that you own that decision. Right? Your description of this family dynamic is so intensely toxic from your mother and your sister, and then the enabling of that by that wider family. Because you speak up against it and everyone kind of clutches their pearls and goes, I can't believe you would do this. Of course you think you're the problem. But let's flip it and imagine you witnessed that happening to me. What would you say to me?
I don't know.
What's funny? Why are you laughing?
Because I've just had a complete mind blank. It's hard, isn't it? Because I'm thinking that I wouldn't advise. I wouldn't want to say cut contact, but that's what it feels like I would say to someone
Okay.
else.
All right. If I came to you and said, my sister has arranged a huge party with all the people that I've had relationships with for years and years and years, and she and my mum went to this party and they've never got on, but all of a sudden they're best mates, and they had this party and nobody told me about it. Nobody invited me. Nobody even asked why I wasn't going or said it's a shame I won't be there. But I think, because of that, it must mean that I'm the problem in this dynamic. Then, I must be the one that's toxic. What do you say?
Absolutely not. No. I'd say fuck them all. Don't go. It doesn't matter. It's not you.
Right. Yeah, but they didn't know. They didn't know I wasn't going. That my sister told everybody that I declined, that she had invited me, but I'd said no.
But they never mentioned it at all. Asked you why you weren't going.
No. So, am I the problem?
No.
No. It is no wonder that you had the reaction you have had to these emails, both around the party and the birthday. There is a thing that people really misunderstand when it comes to this work and the healing and all of that stuff. And that is that the idea that doing it means that you will never feel pain or triggers or shame spirals or queries or questions again if you are properly healed. That is not true. There are always going to be toxic people in the world, right? That is just a fact and a truth. We can't escape it. It's not even that you're never going to get into toxic relationships again. It's just that when you notice it, you will remove yourself from them, right? You won't tolerate it any longer. It's not that you're never going to be hurt by someone or have those triggers again. It's not that you're back to square one. This is reminding you why you removed yourself in the first place. It's you reacting to an environmental cue which has historically been incredibly dangerous and threatening for you. That is not square one. That is memory and your environment being the problem, not you being the problem, right? When we do this work, it's not that we never have any of these feelings. Yes, they do dramatically lessen over time and work, and things like rejection become a lot easier to bear. It's not that I never have a moment when I get rejected. It's that when I have the moment, I am very, very quickly now able to regulate it, and it doesn't send me into a shame spiral for days. Right? It's not that I'm never hurt by people's behavior towards me. It's that I'm able to boundary my part, their part, look at what I could have done differently and learn from it, grow from it, and move on from it. It's that I separate my value from their value of me. Other people do not get to decide whether I am a person of value and substance and moral character and fortitude or whatever. I know that. So we come back again then to the identity and the self. And you said, when I said, if, without them, you said, who am I? What have I got? And I asked, well, what have you got? And you said, your husband and your children, sorry, not siblings, your husband and your children. Right? But let's bring it more even inside. What you have then is boundaries, safety, protection. What you have is a demand for authenticity in relationships, honesty, accountability, justice, equity. You by protecting yourself and your children and husband from toxic relationships and mindsets, you tap into a whole value system, not one that enables abuse, encourages it even, supports it maybe. And where does that leave you then? Can you see that power even in that?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you feeling right now?
Sad.
Rightly so. There's a lot to grieve.
But maybe also hope that there's that killing the hope that everything is anything will ever change with my mum. And I think maybe it's time to start really acknowledging that.
She has told you it's not going to change by saying she will not go to therapy. She has no interest in resolving anything. She just wants servitude and compliance. If you say to somebody, I would like us to have a relationship, but we need somebody else to help us navigate these difficulties, and they go, no, I'm not going to. That is almost abusive. And in that relationship, it is abusive, because what it is saying is, I have no interest in how I impact you. I just want you to do what I demand. I want things to stay the way they are, and I refuse to acknowledge that anything I do has any kind of impact, negative or otherwise. So she has told you where she stands in terms of your protection, safety, autonomy. And the question is, why do we give the fire oxygen when it burns us so badly? There is no denying where she stands in terms of your relationship with her. And all you have to do, Sarah, all you have to do is ask yourself, if your child told you they needed space and then said, after some space, Mum, I want us to go to therapy to try and work through this, what would you do?
So I would jump at the chance.
Right. Immediately.
Mm.
The pain is that she discarded you.
Mm.
But you have to remember again, she does not know you. She doesn't know you. She knows who she has decided you are, projected onto you, who she needs you to be for her own self-soothing and regulation. This is nothing to do with who you are as a person and everything to do with their own delusion. They do not know you to be able to make these judgments of you. I'm a little bit conscious of time. No, I'm very conscious of time. And I just wanted to make sure before we finish, if there is anything that we haven't covered, if there are any questions that you're left with at all.
No, not at all, no. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My total pleasure. If you have questions, by all means, just ping me an email and I will come back to you, because it may be that, like, tomorrow you're like, hang on, what was this? And I want to find out more about it, yeah? And
Okay,
by all
you.
means, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, in which case, if you're happy for us to do so, shall we park it there?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on, pulling that all apart, for being so honest and reflective and really looking at this. And I am so sorry for the grief that this brings. And I hope that it does bring that little grain of hope with it too. There is a life of love and freedom from the control of other people's expectations outside of those relationships and on the other side of that grief, you know? So, yeah. All righty. Well, thank you again. And as ever, all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.
Bye.